Most people walk right past places that are hiding serious value. But today, two completely different spots, thick mud and solid rock, revealed raw gemstones that could be worth far more than they look. Watch closely. Because what comes out of the ground here might change the way you search forever. Imagine kneeling in a quiet riverbank, scooping up a handful of thick brown mud. To most people, it's just dirt. Wet, heavy, messy. But what if I told you that mud is often the curtain hiding gemstones, treasures that could change your life in an instant? That sticky layer on your hands, the one you're tempted to wash away, could be the final disguise of stones formed deep within the earth and carried to this very spot by centuries of wind, rain, and river flow. You see, nature never leaves gems scattered openly on the surface. They are disguised, hidden, and often buried under mud or compact soil. And here's the suspenseful truth. The very places you'd never bother checking, muddy bends in rivers, compacted clay layers, or sticky gullies after rainfall, are where heavy gemstones rest, waiting to be uncovered by someone observant enough to look deeper. Let's start with the most important secret: veins. If mud is the disguise, veins are the origin. These veins are the channels where gemstones are born, trapped in cracks of rock, cooling over centuries into crystal structures. When rain falls and hillsides crumble, fragments of those veins are carried downhill. But before they sparkle in streams or settle in bends, they pass through mud and soil. That's why gemstone veins are the first clue in your search. Picture walking along a rugged hillside after rain. A fresh landslide exposes a streak of pale rock running diagonally across the slope. It looks different from the surrounding stone, maybe lighter in color, maybe smoother. That streak is a vein, and if you pause to break it open, you might uncover dull, rough crystals clinging to its surface. They won't shine at first. They may look like ordinary lumps, but cleaned, washed, and tested, they reveal themselves as gems in their raw state. Now here's where the mud comes in again. Once veins break apart, weathering covers those rough crystals in layers of soil. Over time, they roll downhill, hidden under mud at the base of slopes or caught in gullies. To the casual eye, they vanish, but to the trained eye, they leave signs. Unusual colors in the soil, heavier lumps mixed into ordinary clay, or glimmers after rain. This is why true gemstone hunters don't just look for shine. They dig into mud, they wash it, they examine what others throw away. Because mud is the earth's way of protecting its secrets. Let's take it a step further. Imagine a river winding down from the hills where those veins are exposed. The water carries fragments of stone, tumbling them downstream. The lighter pebbles float along easily, but the heavier crystals, including gemstones, behave differently. They sink. They don't travel far. And when the river bends, slows, or swirls behind a boulder, those gemstones fall into the mud at the bottom. That's why the inside curve of a river bend is such a powerful trap. On the surface, it looks like just another muddy corner. But scoop deep into that sticky gravel, and you may find heavy crystals resting where the current abandoned them. And here's another layer of suspense. Many beginners stop at the first muddy scoop. They see nothing but sand and walk away. But experienced hunters know that sapphires, garnets, topaz, and other heavy stones often rest beneath the first few inches. You must dig into the compacted clay layer, the layer that resists your shovel, the layer that holds stones which sank and stayed. That stubborn mud is where treasures lie. Now let's connect veins to rivers. Veins give birth. Rivers transport. Mud conceals. And the patient eye reveals. This is the cycle of gemstone discovery, and it begins when you understand that mud is not an obstacle. It's a signpost. But rivers aren't the only traps. Dry gullies hold some of the greatest secrets. Think about it. Hundreds of years ago, a river may have run where there's now only a shallow depression. The water disappeared, but the stones it carried remain, buried under soil and hardened mud. If you see a gully filled with rounded rocks on a hillside, you may be standing on a forgotten riverbed, one still holding untouched gemstones. And then there's erosion. Every rainfall wears hills down. Heavy stones, including gemstones, roll to the base and bury themselves in mud at the foot of slopes. The topsoil washes away, but the heavier stones resist movement, embedding deeper each season. To most people, the foot of a slope looks like nothing more than sticky clay and tangled roots. To a hunter, it is nature's basket, filled quietly year after year with treasures gravity cannot carry further. Let me paint this vividly. A prospector once stopped at a muddy patch near the bottom of a hill. To anyone else, it looked like a place to avoid, thick, sticky, full of water. But he noticed heavy pebbles mixed into the mud. After scooping and washing them in a pan, he discovered they were crystals weathered from veins uphill. That's how close you can come to treasures without even knowing, until mud gives them away. And here's something most people never consider: behind boulders. Walk along a stream and look where large rocks interrupt the flow. On the downstream side, mud and gravel pile up. It looks ordinary, but that mud is where the current drops its heaviest loads. You won't find light, flashy pebbles there. You'll find the stubborn ones, the ones that resist water's push, the ones that might just be gemstones. So the question becomes, how do you search? First, train your eyes for veins. Look for streaks of rock different in color or texture, exposed on hillsides or road cuts. Break small samples, wash them, and study what lies inside. Second, when you move to rivers, target bends, boulders, and inside curves. Don't stop at the first scoop. Dig deeper, into the compact clay, into the layers where lighter stones cannot hide. Third, never ignore mud. After rainfall, muddy soil reveals what dry earth hides. Pick up the heavier pebbles mixed in, wash them, test them. What looks worthless at first may prove to be the gem of a lifetime. And fourth, think beyond rivers. Check gullies, slopes, and base areas where erosion and gravity collect heavy stones. This is what separates casual searchers from true hunters. Not luck, not sparkle, but patience. The willingness to see mud not as dirt, but as nature's disguise. Yet hidden below, there may be a glittering secret. Sapphires locked in veins that run like hidden rivers inside the earth itself. Yes, veins. That's the first and perhaps most overlooked clue to finding sapphires. You see, while many prospectors rush to streams and rivers, true success often begins where those stones are born. In the hard, ancient veins of rock that slice through hillsides, cliffs, and exposed outcrops. Think of veins like the Earth's treasure maps. They form when mineral-rich fluids move through cracks in solid rock, cooling and leaving behind trails of crystals. Sometimes these veins carry quartz, sometimes feldspar, but in certain blessed regions, those veins conceal sapphires. Generations have walked past them, touching the surface without ever realizing what lay inside. If you ever see a streak of lighter or darker material cutting through a cliff face, a wall of stone, or even a road cut made by construction, stop immediately. Don't just glance at it. Look closer. Veins often stand out in color, texture, or shine. Sapphires may not reveal themselves as polished blue gems, that's the fantasy, but they might appear as dull, glassy nodules, rough crystals clinging stubbornly to the host rock. And here's the secret that miners don't easily share. When you find a vein, don't expect the sapphires to just sit on the surface. Veins demand patience. Use a hammer and gently break small sections away. Check the broken fragments in good light. Many beginners walk away because they don't see an instant sparkle. But sapphires in veins can be coated in weathered crusts, hiding their true face. The magic often comes after you wash them, or even just after rain has rinsed the stone. Now, why do veins matter so much? Because if you find one, you've located the source. Streams and rivers carry sapphires away, scattering them downstream. But veins, they are the birthplace. To stumble upon one is like finding the tree instead of the fallen fruit. It means you're standing right where nature created the treasure. Let's pause for a moment. Imagine this, a hillside path after heavy rain. You notice a pale line of rock zigzagging through the soil. You crouch, brush it with your fingers, and spot a dull bluish lump stuck in the quartz. You don't recognize it at first, but it feels heavier than it should. Later, when cleaned, you realize you've just found a raw sapphire, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with sharper eyes. That is why veins are the first secret. And here's something even more suspenseful. If you find one vein, there are often more. Like veins in the human body, they rarely run alone. Follow the line. Walk the slope. Look for branches, splits, or cross-sections. One small discovery can lead to a network, each carrying more potential than the last. But let's not stop here, because even if veins are the heart of sapphire hunting, there's another secret that connects to them. Where do the sapphires go after weather and erosion break those veins apart? They travel. They move downhill. They collect in places nature quietly designs as traps. And that brings us to the next great secret: rivers and bends. Now, I know what you're thinking. Everyone talks about rivers. True, but not everyone understands how they work. Most newcomers walk along a stream and pick up the first shiny pebble they see, often fooled by quartz, feldspar, or simple glassy stones. The real secret is to understand that rivers are like giant sieves. They sort everything by weight and shape. Sapphires are heavier than most common stones, which means they don't just float anywhere. They settle where the water slows down. Picture this: a river rushing down a mountainside. Straight sections sweep light sand and pebbles away. But when the river bends, something changes. The outside of the bend is fast, violent, stripping soil and carrying debris. But the inside curve is calm, gentle, and quiet. That's where the heavy stones fall. Gold hunters know this well, but sapphire hunters often ignore it. Yet those bends are like open vaults for anyone who knows where to look. Let me paint you a scene. You're walking along a river. The water glitters in the sunlight. You reach a bend where gravel piles up like a natural beach. You crouch and scoop a handful. Most of it is ordinary sand and rock, but hidden among them may be rounded, heavy crystals. They might look dull. They might look unimpressive, but washed, tested, and inspected, they reveal the deep hues of sapphires. And here's where it gets more interesting. Rivers don't just hide sapphires in bends. Look near boulders lodged in the stream. Look where the current is forced to slow, around fallen logs or behind ridges in the bedrock. Heavy stones fall out of the current like passengers leaving a crowded train. They gather in pockets nature designed for anyone observant enough to notice. Now imagine connecting these two secrets: veins and rivers. Veins are the source. Rivers are the transport. If you find a vein uphill, there's a strong chance the same sapphires will appear downstream. And when you know where to search in a river, you're not just guessing, you're following the trail. This combination separates amateurs from true sapphire finders. But before you rush off with a pan or shovel, let me share another insider's trick. When searching rivers, don't just skim the surface. Sapphires are heavy, they sink. The most promising stones often rest deep, under layers of lighter gravel. Use a pan, a sieve, or even your hands to dig into the compacted layers. Wash them slowly. Watch for the stones that don't move easily with water. Those stubborn ones are worth a second look. You see, sapphire hunting isn't about luck. It's about reading the signs the earth gives you. Veins whisper where they were born. Rivers reveal where they traveled. And in both, only the patient and observant are rewarded. And let me warn you of something. Not every shiny stone is worth keeping. Beginners often fill their bags with worthless pebbles. The real test is in brightness. It's weight, hardness, and structure. Sapphires resist scratches. They feel denser than glass. Some are clear, some cloudy, some green, yellow, or blue. Don't let appearances fool you. The dirtier and rougher they look, the more likely you found the real thing. Finds like this remind you that the ground can hide more than anyone expects. Mud, rock, it doesn't matter. Value shows up in the places most people ignore. If you want to see what else the earth is holding, stick around. There's always another discovery waiting.